Dear friends, chers amis, liebe Freunde. Hey, you might ask, what is Harry doing starting a new YouTube episode in three languages, English, French, and German? Well, there is a reason for that. And the reason is really very simple. I'm going to speak for a few minutes today about a war that is raging in the Southern Caucasus between Azerbaijan and Armenia in the past 3 days. And whilst many Middle Eastern radio and television channels, news channels, have covered this war, Al Jazeera Arabic itself has already done so many documentaries on it as well in the last 3 days. But Europe has been quite mum about it, with just the reporting of the event as just one of those news items of the day. And I think it warrants more than that because it's a dangerous development taking place in the region, in my estimation. And so my words are practically targeting Europe tonight. So, what is this war between Armenia and Azerbaijan? It is over the enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is also known for Armenians as Artsakh. Now, a few little facts. Armenia is an independent republic with some 3 million population. Azerbaijan has some 10 million population, and the enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh has some 150,000 Armenians in it. Now, the enclave, this landmass, is in Azerbaijan, but its majority population is Armenian. And post the Soviet Union disintegration and the independence of the various Soviet socialist republics, Armenia and Azerbaijan entered into a war in the early 90s, and Armenia managed to retrieve this enclave from Azerbaijan. And over the past so many decades, this place has become quite a thriving Armenian center linked directly to the Armenian Republic. Historically, there have been shenanigans by Soviet leaders giving this enclave to Azerbaijan during Stalin's time, and already beginning the seeds of conflict, sowing the seeds of conflict. That's so with Armenia taking over this landmass. And since then, there has been a source of tension with skirmishes, which recently in 2016 and yet again a couple of months ago and now have flared up into serious confrontations between those two armies. Now, this is something that I wouldn't normally talk about because it is not really directly related to my neighborhood, between inverted commas, which is the MENA and Gulf region. However, the reason why I'm bringing it up today is simply because there have been developments which worry me. And it is not only the fierceness of the battles over the past 3 days that have concerned and worried me, but it is also the fact that outside players are getting far more involved, far more visibly, far more pointedly getting involved in this warfare. And in particular here, this time in September 2020, it is Turkey that for the first time, lock, stock, and barrel has basically sided with Azerbaijan and is, according to many, many reports, providing a lot of help, whether it is mercenaries coming from Iraq and Syria or even Afghanistan to fight on the Azeri side against the Armenians, whether it is the use of military arsenal, whether it is the diplomacy and the threats and the words issued by Turkey. This worries me because now it is no longer a war between Armenians and Azeris, but it is also a war that is pitting Turkey, a NATO member, a very powerful army, against a small republic of Armenia. Now you might ask, why is this happening? Well, there are many reasons. For one, I suspect it's because of this mantra that we've heard so much about Turkey and Azerbaijan being basically one people in two countries. This has been said over and over again because of the Turkic origins of Azerbaijan as well, although there is a very large Shia Muslim population in Azerbaijan, whereas Turkey, as you and I know, is far more overwhelmingly Sunni. However, this one people, two countries mantra or logo has basically motivated Turkey to side very clearly and almost menacingly, in my opinion, on the side of Azerbaijan. And that makes the confrontation not only totally uneven, but also it makes it very much more dangerous because, and I'm rushing here due to the few minutes I have with you, because the other two key actors in the region are Iran and Russia. And whilst Turkey has completely sided with Azerbaijan, in my opinion, Russia and Iran have been far more ambivalent. It is true that Russia has a mutual defense pact with Armenia in case the republic itself is attacked. And it is also true that Iran has very strong economic and demographic ties with Armenia. However, they also have been much more even-handed in this conflict than has been Turkey, certainly in this last chapter of the warfare. And that concerns me. Concerns me because of the danger to Armenians and what might happen when the balance is completely askew in such a geostrategic part of the world, which is the Southern Caucasus. Now, why would Turkey lump all its efforts, diplomatic and somewhat military, into the war on the side of Azerbaijan? Well, there are many reasons, and many experts would say many things, and I respect those views. But there are three lines, and I mean lines, that I would like to highlight here. The first one is a railway line. And if I bring up the map of the region, you will see what I mean by that. The railway line basically is one that is part of the old Chinese Silk Road that goes from Baku, as you see on the map, to Kars. Why is this important? This is important because it constitutes a regional commercial route or access for Turkey to the Mediterranean. The second line is a gas pipeline that goes yet again from Baku to Europe via Tbilisi, Georgia, and then into Turkey and into Europe. And of course, the third line, is the oil pipeline, which goes again from Baku to Ceyhan. Now, those three lines are important lifelines, and Turkey is very keen on them. Hence, in my opinion, the strategic, the economic interest for Turkey to sort of be so completely siding with Azerbaijan against Armenia. Now, if I take those three lines, the railway line, the gas pipeline, and the oil pipeline. If I take the one people, two countries mantra, then, and I take the history between Armenians and Turks that goes back to the genocide of 1915, then I understand perhaps why Turkey is siding with Azerbaijan, but I also worry because the Southern Caucasus could really erupt into a far broader conflagration unless powers such as Russia, such as Iran, such as the European Union, if and when it wakes up from its insomnia, they come and help resolve, mediate this conflict. And why did I say insomnia for the European Union and not somnolence? Because you might say, hold on, insomnia is a state of wakefulness. Yes, but it is sleeping awake. The EU has to basically stand up for its rights as well as its interests. So if the war is left in the way it is now, things do not look good for the whole region. But what I think is needed is mediation. And that brings me to a favorite topic of mine. I've written a treatise when I was doing my LLM in public international law at the university on alternative dispute resolution, and my theme was Nagorno-Karabakh at the time. I've written about it. I've sometimes spoken about it, not in terms of any specific expert knowledge, not in terms of my identity as an Armenian, but simply in terms of another one of those conflicts in the world that over the decades has alas become a frozen conflict. And that is where I have a problem, because it seems to me that everybody is happy to forget about this conflict so long as it doesn't flare up. And when it does flare up, there is a lot of flurry, a lot of activity, and then it settles down and we forget all about it. And we cannot afford to forget about it anymore. And this is why I basically blame, to a large extent, the OSCE Minsk Group, co-chaired by Russia, the United States, and to a large extent also by France, that have been trying to resolve this dispute, that have been trying to mediate, but to be honest with you, they haven't yet managed to produce the goods. I've spoken with many people who work and advise the OSCE Minsk Group, and they've told me that there have been many times when they've been a whisker away from getting something resolved, yet at the last minute, it's been thwarted. So for me, at the moment, the most important thing is to address this conflict in terms of mediation, whether it is the OSCE Minsk Group, whether it is another body, whether it is the Americans who at the moment are so busy with their presidential elections. Tonight, I'm speaking to you in a few hours' time, Trump and Biden are going to be at the university campus in Cleveland, Ohio, for their first presidential debate. So the Americans are far too busy with their own presidential prospects to really think too much about what is happening in the Southern Caucasus. The Minsk Group hasn't really produced the goods. Russia, in my opinion, Putin, who was very pro-Armenian in the early 90s, at the moment, as I said, is almost, not entirely, I would suggest, but almost maintaining an equidistance between the two countries. And therefore, the tensions are there, the roots of the tension are there. The landmass being within Azerbaijan is one argument that the Azeris would use. The overwhelming Armenian population in the enclave is an argument that the Armenians would use because it would then bring up the international law issue of self-determination for the enclave. And remember, there were referenda right at the beginning in the early 1990s, but then nothing more happened. So the arguments are there. And what needs to be done is to find a solution, which is what conflict resolution or ADR does, to find a solution that is win-win. It can be done, but it needs some political pliability by the leaders. And that pliability comes when they realize that the pressure is being exerted upon them and the prospects they have for the settlement of the dispute mean that they cannot stick to maximalist demands. In a nutshell, a course where I spent 1 year studying in the Department of Law. And this has to be done in a way, again, that provides win-win solutions rather than win-lose solutions or lose-lose solutions. And that is what needs to be done. Because otherwise, I'm worried. I'm worried by the casualties. A lot of people are dying in that part of the world. They're two bit republics, Armenia and Azerbaijan. In their own right, and I'm an Armenian, I say it, the two republics in their own right do not have strategic weight per se. Yes, I talked to you about the pipelines and I talked to you about the railway line. I talked to you about the various things that both republics do. Yes, but that could be replicated elsewhere as well. Their weight and the seriousness of the weight they both have is due to the alliances they have. And what worries me, one of the things that worries me, is that what would happen is seeing proxy wars. Russia, Turkey, they fought each other in world wars, they have fought before, that they recreate those proxy wars in the Southern Caucasus as they have done in Libya and in Syria, for instance. And let us not forget the very important regional power, no matter how much it is buckling down under sanctions, it is an important power, and that is Iran. So I want to avoid more casualties. I want to avoid more deaths, more give and take, loss of villages here and there. And I would like to see the muscular leadership that would bring in to this equation a mediation that one way or another resolves the situation with win-win scenarios in which both sides have to bend forward and then bend backward. Let me finish off by saying why I hope this happens, other than the fact that I, like you, I suppose, most of you at least, because there'll be some hotheads now from this side or the other who are saying, Harry, what you're saying is a load of codswallop. Fine, but most of you would say, yes, we tend to agree with you, even though we haven't followed this conflict for all those years. Nagorno-Karabakh means the black garden. I don't want that garden to be black and to be blackened further. I pray for peace. I hope that the mediation efforts will work. And I hope that there will be enough resolve to put together a formula that preserves the inalienable rights of Armenians for self-determination without compromising also the rights of the Azeris in this conflict. This is called, as one judge put it once in a courtroom, legal adulthood. Take care and all the best.